Good morning, everyone. This is Myra Corello from the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program at Delgado Community College. We are going to be starting in just a couple of seconds, and so for those of you already on the line with us, hang on for just a couple of minutes, and we will be right back. All right. Looks like it is 10 on the nose. And so while we're getting a few other people to hop on and join us, we'll go ahead and at least get started with some things. As I said a second ago, my name is Myra Corello, and I'm the Director of Outreach and Alumni Engagement at the Delgado Community College site of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. We would love to welcome so many people this morning. We have alumni from the Delgado Community College site, also being joined by alumni from across the country, all 14 of our other sites. So this is really remarkable, and all thanks to the Goldman Sachs 10KSB alumni app for being able to connect alumni from across the country for special events. We're really glad to have that opportunity. We also want to welcome several of our friends and partners in our business ecosystem. We are delighted to have you a part of us. I'm going to start just by giving a little bit of an overview. This is called 10KSB Talks, and it is a series that we do roughly once a month. And it's been going on now for a couple of years, and it's outstanding because what we do is we feature our and allow them to give educational thoughts and opportunities to fellow alumni. So it's like a 10KSB Talks, TED Talks, only alumni to alumni. And so this has just been absolutely a very successful series, and we're always welcome to other alumni who would like to come in and provide similar programming. A couple of announcements. We are in the final week and a half of the spring 2019 outreach campaign. So if you do have somebody who has an interest in attending the Goldman Sachs program, we would love to talk to them, especially if they are within a 2.5 hour driving distance of New Orleans. If you're outside of that and you're tuning into this, you can contact us as well, and we will be glad to put you in touch with the national program. So we're delighted to have any opportunity to field any inquiries. Of course, anyone can go to the national website for more information on applying to any of the programs, and that is www.10ksbapply.com. Or you can contact us at Delgado Community College, and I'll share that information with you at the end of the session. One of the things that I will share with you is that we are going to record the session, so if you would like to have more information, slides, we're going to be happy to do that. 3 upcoming events, just in case you are local, one of which is a virtual one, so that's another webinar, and it is coming this coming Wednesday. So if you do know of somebody who has an interest in applying to the Goldman Sachs program, we will be having a live information session through GoToWebinar. That we have a registration link we can send them, and that is from 4 to 5 p.m. Central on this coming Wednesday, October 3rd. The following day, we're going down to Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce, and we're actually doing a Grow Your Business panel discussion as part of their Lunch and Learn series. I will be interviewing 4 of our outstanding alumni from that region, and it should be a wonderful program. So if you want to make a trip down to Bayou, we would love to have you come and join us. I'll be getting in my car and whisking back straight up to New Orleans to go out to the Lakefront Airport, where we will have a joint networking event with the National Association of Women Business Owners and the Women's Business Alliance of New Orleans. So another big triple networking event at Messina's on the lake in Lakefront Airport, and that will be from 5 to 7 p.m. Thursday evening. So lots of things coming up. Again, we are in the mania that always comes into those last few weeks of applications. So make sure and get in touch with us or send our information to someone who you would like to see be a part of this program. So let's talk a little bit about today's program. We are so excited to have Jason Goodenough being joined today by Matt McBride. And my inspiration for this goes all the way back about 2 summers. I think we're 2 summers now. Jason Goodenough came through our program in Cohort 15, and I was fortunate enough to actually be a business advisor for that cohort. And so I had a chance to get to know Jason very well and his really unique background and understand so much about what he was trying to do with this business. And the thing that was so fascinating is that while everybody else has growth plans that go in directions of adding new products or services or adding a new market, Jason truly wanted to transform the workplace. He truly had a passion for looking at how he could transform his culture. And so that was, to me, a unique growth plan. And as I have seen what's happened since then, it has been truly phenomenal. So I was really excited when he agreed to share with us today a little bit of this transformation. Before I turn it over to him, let me give you just a little bit of his story. Jason actually was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but moved north less than 2 years after birth. He spent his childhood between the greater New York City area and London, England. It was during that time in England, as a very young child, that he really began to adore cuisine and gastronomy. Being the only child of foodie and travel-obsessed parents, he was able to go and expose himself to a lot of the things that many of us would never have the opportunity to. And they traveled all around Western Europe extensively, eating in the best restaurants that they could get into. And although Jason wanted to be a chef, he didn't think it was realistic. So he actually studied economics at Millsaps College in Jackson, Mississippi, and started cooking professionally just to have that little bit of an opportunity to explore that passion. And after a week of working as a line cook, he knew he was hooked. So after he graduated with his economics degree, he matriculated into the CIA in Hyde Park, New York. And he excelled there, and upon graduation moved to Philly, where he and his wife, Amelia, she was pursuing her medical degree. And he knew as a young culinary graduate that in order to be the best, he had to work with the best chefs that would hire him. And so after stints at LaCroix, at the Rittenhouse, as well as for Iron Chef Morimoto, and twice for the legendary Georges Perrier, Jason was offered his first head chef's job. The Happy Rooster was a Philly landmark and had landed on hard times. And Jason was brought in to relaunch its menu and improve its reputation. He accomplished this and received many press accolades in the process, but had to leave after a year and a half when his wife graduated from medical school. Jason and his newly minted Dr. Goodenough hoped to get their daughter closer to Amelia's home in the Mississippi Delta for her residency, and that led them to New Orleans, where Amelia pursued her residency, and he became a sous chef for Emeril Lagasse at NOLA Restaurants. No wonder I always liked it so much. Didn't know that. After this, he commuted to South Dakota from New Orleans to work as a private chef on a ranch in the Black Hills. And the job allotted him about 40 hours per year of paid vacation. So he filled his time at different New Orleans restaurants in order to keep his skills sharp. Carrollton Market, named for the historical market that the building is in the middle of, opened in March of 2014. The restaurant has received a plethora of accolades since its inception. In early 2017, Chef and his crew traveled to Café Boulud, I know I'm going to mispronounce it, in New York City, where they cooked Lundi Gras and Mardi Gras collaboration dinners with executive chef Aaron Bludorn, Jason's classmate and friend from CIA. Most recently, Carrollton Market was named a top 10 restaurant for 2018 by the Times Picayune critic Brett Anderson. Jason's also been named Chef of the Year by the New Orleans Magazine, And he believes if he and his crew come to work every single day trying to be better than they were the day before, great things will follow. Even after 4 years, this is still and always will be the mentality of the staff at Carrollton Market. Jason, all I can say is thank you. We can't wait to hear what you have to say about transforming your culture. And thank you, Matt, for being a part of this as well.
Thank you, Myra. That was a very nice introduction. I appreciate it. To everyone listening, hello, my name is Jason Goodenough. I am the chef and sole owner of Carrollton Market. One of the things that's kind of unique is I don't have any partners or investors. I kind of took out a small loan from my parents and just opened the doors one day. With me is Matthew McBride. Matt has been with me from day one and really essentially turned into my right-hand man. He runs the day-to-day and is largely responsible for the cultural changes we've made. And, you know, he's been there from day one. So, Matt, you want to say hello?
Yeah. How are you?
Goldman Sachs process, really, I give a lot of credit for the success that we've had with my business since I graduated from the program. It really changed my life, I think, for the better. So I'm excited to be here and just be able to share with y'all some of the things that we've learned while trying to change our culture at Carrollton Market. You know, we've had a ton of success since that happened. So I think that's, you know, a huge part of one of the things that makes us good at what we do. So we'll go on to our first slide, a little bit about the restaurant.
And also, Jason, before you get started, one of the things that I forgot to mention is that I am going to be monitoring questions. And so if any of you, as Jason is going through this, have any questions or comments, please feel free to add them into the questions section. And at the end, Jason's going to finish around 10:40, 10:45. And we will be happy to stay on for another 10, 15 minutes and field questions or comments. So please feel free to do so. Thanks, and sorry to interrupt, Jason.
That's quite all right, Myra. So a few pictures of the restaurant, the outside of the building in the top left. It's a small shotgun shack in New Orleans. The whole space is 1,300 square feet. You know, it really makes it a challenge. Our dry storage is at the top of attic stairs in the kitchen. We do not have an office in the restaurant. We have a cupboard underneath the point of sale system that we call the office, where we are able to fit a wireless printer and the routers and the modem. You know, it's one of the things that makes it really challenging for us, but also I think is, you know, effective on our culture because it doesn't give the managers anywhere to go hide. I think a lot of managers tend to move to offices and close the door to hide from their staff, in my opinion, and they don't get to do that at my restaurant. So a few pictures of our signature items on here. In the center is the Oysters Goodenough. I've kind of built the brand around that dish. I think every great New Orleans restaurant needs a great oyster dish. It's really the only thing besides our steak dish that's been on the menu from day one. As we kind of developed into other markets, we moved into brunch, we moved into lunch. So brunch, we do an Oysters Goodenough French omelet. Lunch, we do an Oysters Goodenough po' boy. Goodenough being my last name, you know, kind of worked against me much of my life. So now I'm at a point where I'm hoping to do the opposite. The top right is our signature brunch item. It's biscuits and debris, which is a very New Orleans thing, but we always try to stay about 2 standard deviations away from the curve away from the mean in terms of the food we do here. I think there's a lot of ubiquity in New Orleans, so I just try to be a little bit different in the cuisine I do, and I think we try to be a little bit different in the service that we provide, which, you know, Matt can kind of touch on maybe a bit.
Sure. I mean, I think, you know, one thing about New Orleans, that we are both Northeast guys. We've worked a lot in the Northeast, and the things that you realize when you're in Northeast restaurants is that the flaws are sort of, they're magnified because they can put you out of business really fast. I think there's a culture down here of this being the Big Easy, and you can see it, I think, a lot of times in New Orleans restaurants. be a little bit more laid back, a little too laid back for us as far as the service is concerned. So we wanted to just sort of be a little bit more connected. So not only, just sort of mirror the food with that 2 standard deviations away, but also sort of bring that service level up to try and make it a little bit less laid back and more about focus and touching tables and talking to guests, making sure that things are how they should be because we expect them to be that way.
Obviously nobody's infallible. Everybody makes mistakes. We understand that, but we feel like in our business, the key is if we make a mistake, before the customer makes it out the door, catch them and, make it right. And if we do that, I feel like you're more likely to have them run and tell their friends that you did a great job than even if you just serve them a great meal kind of flawlessly. It's, making people feel appreciated, guests feel appreciated. I tell the expression that I tell the staff at my various staff meetings is that I want every single person that walks out the door of Carrollton Market to want to immediately climb to the top of the tallest tower and proclaim the glory of our restaurant to anyone who will listen, because word of mouth is God down here. And that's what we fight for every single day. A little bit of background about the restaurant. As I said before, I opened kind of by self-funding it in 2014. I said at the first staff meeting, and Matt has heard me say this so many times, I'm sure he wants to beat his head against the wall, but he's the only one left from the first staff meeting, so that's kind of the price you pay.
Second one.
Was it the second one?
No, I'm the second person left.
Oh, Paul, that's right. That's actually okay, but he took a sabbatical.
Yes.
So I said at the first staff meeting, I said, I want to create the finest restaurant in New Orleans. I said, I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm talented enough. I don't know if you guys are talented enough, but we're going to come to work every day and we're going to try our best. And, I think with that mentality, that's kind of persevered over the years. And I think we're getting closer than we've ever been. But I don't know, how that would even be quantified. I mean, you could, I think, talk to 100 different people. They would give you 100 different things that they love about, that they would consider what makes a great restaurant. So our first 12 months were good. We were put on the Times Picayune's 5 best new restaurants list. And I feel like we had a little bit of a honeymoon.
Sure.
But then, things started to go downhill. So obviously, as I was seeing us grow, I was kind of hiring with the expectation that we were going to continue to grow. We were poised for growth. But unfortunately, we started to contract about 15 to 20% for 2 years in a row. I think this was for a couple of different reasons. One, the honeymoon ended. 2, there was a huge number of kind of small restaurants that opened in New Orleans, in not small restaurants, but restaurants kind of, I think, aimed to be on our level in our market that opened at around the same time. And I think that's also when the bottom fell out of the oil market.
Yeah, the oil market was a huge one, and it wasn't talked about a lot, but it certainly took away a lot of our guests.
A lot of people lost a lot of disposable income down here because of how tied up they are in oil, which people don't really think about. So we kind of attributed a lot. So it's kind of almost like a perfect storm of things going wrong, and it got pretty bad. I mean, we had Tuesday nights where we do 8 covers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of soul crushing to know that you're providing one of the best products in town and nobody's coming to eat it. It's hard to keep your staff motivated and smiling and welcoming, and it was a tough time for us. So that's kind of how I wound up in Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses. Obviously, it's a huge time commitment. And I was reluctant at first to do it, but I'm so glad that I did. The thing that really kind of got me thinking was when we were writing our mission statements and core values, we kind of thought, what kind of restaurant do I want to own? What are our core values? And I realized that the person that I brought in to, basically carry my sword, so to speak, was really not, fighting the good fight. this was a friend of mine. We worked together in Philadelphia. He moved to New Orleans to open Carrollton Market with me. I mean, he was really like my best friend in town, probably at the time. But in reality, I think I came to see that he was really doing me dirty by way of my business. So I think, after writing the core values and the mission statement and his pretty strong disinterest in that, I let him go. And I think at that point, we really tried to start focusing on being a little more positive in our corporate culture. I came up in restaurants where, if you messed up, no matter how small, you would get yelled at. The chef would come in and eat all the crunchy stuff off your station and then kick you in the back of the knee for not having any crunchy stuff for the customers. I mean, it was very different. There wasn't a whole lot of, and I think Matt would probably say the same thing. There wasn't a whole lot of empathy. You didn't call out sick for any reason because that just was like unheard of. You worked many hours a week off the clock. I did. They gave you way more stuff to do than you could humanly do in the amount of time. So you had to come in and work 2 or 3 hours off the clock. I mean, that's the way I came up. And I don't know, Matt.
I mean, it's the same thing with me. I started in the back of the house in restaurants many years ago as well. So it was the same sort of thing. It was, it's a lot of bully tactics and a lot of chain of command stuff, chain of command is certainly something that I think is helpful in a lot of ways, but only I think of it can unify teams rather than just having someone that just comes in and, makes your life difficult for the sake of making your life difficult because you don't have the experience or whatever. And also we have there's a unique thing we've talked about since day one, which is we have an open kitchen. And so front of the house and back of the house really are one thing. And that's really something that we had to sort of look at pretty closely because I've always worked in places, front of the house and back of the house, work together, but as two separate entities. They don't necessarily play by the same rules. They don't necessarily like each other too much some of the time. When both sides are doing what they're supposed to do, it's great. This is different. You can't run, and any of you that have ever been to the restaurant will know that. It's a small space. There's nowhere to hide at all. And front of the house and back of the house, there's really no room for that sort of culture in that space. Everybody sees it. It becomes really difficult for what we're trying to accomplish. So that was something we had to realize early on, and it's something that's always been a process that we try and get better with all the time. And that's it's a lot of different moving parts in that. People can see everything, so I mean I think it's part of it.
Yeah, no,
sure.
Absolutely. So with that kind of push towards positivity, I finished 10 KSB in I think December of 2016. 1 year later, we got a lot of kind of press that put us on the echelon of the highest and most respected restaurants in New Orleans, with some of the most respected restaurants in the country. So the first quarter of actually the first 4 months, now that I think about it, of 2018 versus 2017, we posted revenue growth of 182%. When I finished my growth plan, I projected 2 years of contraction before I showed any growth in kind of my expectation, because that's the way things were going. So it's really reinforced to me the importance of the cultural thing. And, like what we do in fine dining restaurants is really, really hard on the best days to, create the kind of guest experience that we're trying to create and create the kind of food that we're trying to create. It's not an easy job, but you can make it easier on your people and yourself, or you can make it harder on your people and yourself. And I think, we try to make it a little bit easier, a little more, a little less stressful than maybe a lot of people operating at our level do. So just a few of the things that have happened since I finished 10,000 Small Businesses. We were this past year named as one of New Orleans' top 10 restaurants for 2018. The first year we opened, like I said before, we were named on the Times Picayune's 5 best new restaurants. And I was reading a little statistical study by the guy the most respected critic in town, about, kind of restaurants that have been on this list and what happens to them. And one thing I saw is that the only restaurants that ever make his 10 best list, every one of them has been on a 5 best new restaurant list. So that was December of 2014. And I said, I want to be on the 10 best list. That's what I want. Like, that was our absolute focus, was to make that 10 best list. So 3 years later, to have that happen, was really incredibly rewarding and validating. We also got written up in Forbes. As you see here, I was on the cover of New Orleans Magazine for the entire month of December. So I was named their Chef of the Year, which, in a town full of unbelievable chefs was just an incredibly, humbling honor, especially to only have been open for 4 years. And really, I was nobody before that. So it really felt like we'd accomplished something at Carrollton Market. OpenTable recently threw us on a list of the 50 best Southern restaurants in America. We pay a lot of attention to OpenTable because, from a statistical standpoint, everybody that comes in and books a table with OpenTable is asked to submit a review. The sample size is much larger of people that actually give us feedback. So we pay a lot of attention to our OT reviews and look for trends and patterns, especially, negative ones. If we see something, a few reviews over a few days, then we try to identify what happened and make corrections. Time Out named us the 12th best brunch in America. I did not want to open for brunch. I don't think any chef or restaurant worker would tell you they want to open for brunch. When we first opened, we only did dinner 5 days a week, and that was it. Brunch was kind of a necessity. But, it's turned into something that we really have not publicized at all. And it's turned into one of our most consistent and successful services. So, it's been really good for us.
Helps pay the bills.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. Check averages aren't as big and kind of have to work harder for less money, but at the same time, keeps revenue coming in and keeps people employed. It keeps, tips in my service pockets, and that's the kind of things really important. So our first takeaway from changing our culture and really the thing that defines how we hire, both in the front of house and the back of house, is, there's an expression that we use in the business a lot, and that is, I can teach you to cook, but I can't teach you to care. And, I think that this really defines what we do in hiring. That we hire based on someone's perceived fit and culture, and, whether or not, they'll drink the Kool-Aid and whether or not they're going to buy into what we do. During Goldman, I wrote, like I said before, our core values, and they are, and I'm not going to go into all the detail, but commitment to excellence, respect, humility, teamwork, integrity, and consistency. This not only applies to the individual, but our treatment of the guests, and really the behavior of the business and the community at large. We want to be good stewards of the community, and we want, I want people that, I'm going to be proud to be running around out there saying that they work for me. I think it is much easier doing what we do, and the learning curve for the way I cook and the learning curve for the service that we provide is very, very steep. Walking in with no experience and doing what we do really takes a ton of training and, one-on-one work. But at the same time, we would rather do that generally than, if it came down to it, to hiring someone with a ton of great experience, but we think we're just going to have a bad attitude and be kind of toxic. We would rather train someone from the ground up. Someone that comes in, they're enthusiastic, they're humble, they're nervous to be there, they hustle. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we look for. And at the same time, that can be good because every chef likes things done the exact way they like things done. I like the steps of cooking certain dishes. You could completely jumble the steps and have the exact same product come out from a different chef, but I like things done the way I like them done. So hiring someone and training them with no experience can kind of negate previous bad habits that they learned. Not necessarily bad habits, but habits they've learned in other places that are not on the level of what we do. That's as far as things work in the kitchen, Matt.
Front of the house is a little bit different. You can't really do anyone with no experience in the front of the house, and that's primarily because you're not so much dealing with a chef or a group of workers in the back of the house. You're really dealing with thousands of people that you've never met before, or that maybe you see over and over again that other people know. There are a lot of moving parts to that. There's a lot of experience that goes into that. It's also harder too. We don't run a very big crew, and there's nowhere to hide. So you really have to be able to move. I think for me, I think that if we have a situation where we can get somebody who already knows how to do volume, and they also can subscribe to the way we do things, that's sort of what we're looking for. But it's kind of always a process, because you never know exactly what you're going to get. You never know if people are going to buy into culture. And honestly, I think you are necessarily in the kitchen hiring people that want to be professionals in this business. That isn't necessarily how the front of the house always works in places, but that's what I would like to do, is hire people that are professionals or want to be professionals in this business, because then they can work a full schedule. They can be there all the time. They can see things change. We change the menu quite often, so the learning curve on that and the knowledge that goes into that is very steep. The wine list is very steep. Liquor is very steep. Like, all those things you have to learn, and it takes a while to learn them. And we have a guest base that is pretty demanding about that.
And it's Matt's idea of wanting to hire professionals. That also, there's an incentivization concept to that. I'm a firm believer that there's equity in knowledge, and that not only are we paying people, especially in the kitchen, but also in the front of house, are we paying people, with dollars and cents, but we're also paying them with knowledge that, you can go out one day if you work for me long enough and hopefully open your own restaurant and really know how to cook, or go on and move to a bigger and better place and make more money and learn more. And that's one way that, I really sell what we do to folks, is that, you come in with a good attitude, you come in and work really hard, and I'll teach you everything I know. And I'm constantly trying to learn new things. So, part of the reason we change the menu so much is to incentivize my kitchen staff. So they're not sitting there, doing the same thing day in and day out. We change the menu on a really regular basis so that they're constantly learning new things, because at the end of the day, that is what the type of people that I want to hire want to do. They want to learn more. They want to become better. They want to push the ball forward. They want to, move up in their career. And that's why it's so important to hire people that want to be professionals whenever we can, in both the front and the back. And because, they want to be good and they want to be professional, then we can teach them, but they already care. And that's kind of what we're looking for. The next one, next takeaway is really straight out of Goldman. Hire slow, fire fast. We've had I've hired a number of managers lately, a number of people that have not made it very long. We're going to get to that later. I actually let my new sous chef go last night after 8 days working in the restaurant. But I did that because, as the first point says, within 3 days there was kind of a recognition, and we also had a GM recently in the same situation. There's recognition that they're not going to be the right person. So despite all our best efforts at hiring the way we do, people's character isn't going to change. I mean, we can teach them to cook, but I feel like fundamentally your character is not going to change a whole lot, who you are. So I don't really want to fight that battle. I don't want my guest experience to potentially suffer because, I'm waiting on somebody to change and be a better leader. In the interview process for me is really more about getting to know the person on a personal level, and determining whether or not they'll be a good fit with my staff. Our kitchen is tiny. It's 400 square feet, maybe. And really, folks got to get along back there. If you have one person that's extremely abrasive, it can bring the whole crew down and very, very quickly. I do think the values-based interviewing process that we learned about in the program really is effective. And I feel like if I was a little more regimented in using that, then I would have had even more success with the hiring, especially recently. And I think one thing here, and I think Matt would agree, is after I bring someone in, I absolutely will pull my staff members aside and feel them out. Or, honestly, I can just kind of stand in the back of the kitchen and overhear them. But the ground level people are really the ones who are most responsible for the reputation that we have at Carrollton Market now. It's people that they're putting out the product day in and day out. I'm just a guy with recipes and a checkbook. It's my cooks that are on the front lines, fighting that daily battle to get the prep done. And there's a lot riding on each person. So, if I'm bringing in someone that I want to lead them, well, I want to make sure this person is going to be capable of leading them. They're a tight crew, and they're not resistant to new leadership like a lot of crews would be. I think they want leadership, but they want the right person to lead them. They want someone that they feel like they, that can teach them, that can make them better. So, we absolutely have that discussion with them in the kitchen. And
yeah, I think, also, and I don't know how this translates to other businesses too. Things work fast in our business, especially with hiring and everything else, because there isn't a sort of training area where you can go and sort of learn about this stuff. You're in it. There's a safety net there in numbers. And we normally have a pretty good safety net set up for people that we've just hired. But you're in the fire from, whether it's front of the house or back of the house, pretty fast. But I will say, you can learn a lot, I think, on our side. Honestly, the values-based interviewing process, for me, I took a lot away from that too, and incorporated it. Because I think you also can learn a lot from the people that work in the establishment. They can tell you, if you come to them and ask them about how new hires are, they can give you some really good feedback. I think a lot of times people will hire and they'll say, okay, well, this is the new person now, and you're going to have to just deal with this. That isn't necessarily, sometimes you're in the situation where you're hiring somebody that isn't a good fit and everyone else is a good fit. So what you're doing basically is hiring someone that's not a good fit for the whole entire restaurant. You can't make it fit if it isn't going to. And certainly things will get better sometimes over time, but if they don't work really within the first couple of weeks, that's usually a pretty good sign that it isn't going to be a good fit. If you want to throw out the entire crew to make it fit for one person, that's what you can do, but your culture is going to change very fast. And that's a difficult thing in our business. You want consistency.
Consistency is above all else. So buy in or get out. This is something that has taken me really quite a few years to wrap my head around. Before I took 10KSB, I hoped for the best in people. I saw the best in people. I still do, but now I don't have time for them to get their shit together, at this point. So, it's like we need to take our time to find the right people and then bring them on board, once we decide that they're right. But if they're not right, then they need to go. And it really, it's a cultural thing. Recently, I hired a new GM, right? I interviewed her 5 times. Matt and I interviewed her together. We were super enthused, and this was really more about what we thought was a cultural thing than the experience that she had, although she had good experience. We went and had coffee, and I think we had, had her in for dinner at the restaurant, and then I think we had at least one more interview. Within the second day of her working at Carrollton Market, all of a sudden, everything came from a point of condescension. Well, why do you have this in your restaurant? Well, you need to change this menu, or tell my cooks how to plate my food. Like, that's pretty much the worst decision anyone could ever make while working for me, because the only person that makes that decision ever is me. And the type of person we want for our culture would know that. These kind of mistakes are so glaring, it just shows me that the character is absolutely not what we're looking for.
Improvement is something we're looking for all the time. But for us to, a lot of it was pushing to change a lot of what we do. And if we had changed a lot of what we had done, we would have been out of business years ago.
Yeah.
It's not, we fail at a lot of things. Humility is a big part of this. We get a lot of things wrong, and we own it. Because we have to. If you don't fail at things, you're not going to get better, for one. But then at the same time, no one wants to sort of welcome someone in to what they do and have them sort of look at it as though everything on all sides is not how things ought to be done. I don't need, no one who works in that business needs to be told that over and over again. If you have improvements to bring, that's one thing. But to be told that when you first started a place is definitely not what we're looking for, because we worked hard to do this as a group. And if it's working for us, then we want to improve it, not change it. And that's the way we look at it.
We want a person to come in and internalize what makes us great, not immediately, and then maybe make some tweaks, not come in and tell us everything we're doing wrong, which, we're not, and start trying to make unnecessary changes. So, with this lady, I would tell her certain things. I would say, you need to go, touch tables. You need to touch every table. Well, I'm not going to do that. Well, then get the fuck out of my restaurant. Excuse my language, but that's pretty much the way it went. I don't have time for it. It really completely infuriates me, in all honesty. We had another guy we promoted from line cook to sous chef. We fired him after 2 weeks. I had a guy. Then his replacement, who had been with us for 8 days, last night called my Latino line cook a Chihuahua, so that was it for him.
This sounds fairly cutthroat. This doesn't happen.
No, I'm not a guy. I hate firing people.
We really. But if you can see those things happen early on, it's probably best to move on quickly.
Yep.
And it's better for them too. If people haven't invested a lot of time on both sides, it works best, I think, for other people involved in it as well. And I think it's an easier break. It's basically saying, listen, you're not, certainly it doesn't seem like things, because they never seem like they're working out very well on their side either, if the cultures don't sort of match up. So, it's probably the best thing to do is shake hands and move on. It's never, I don't wish anybody any ill will in this situation or any of that. Just if it doesn't work, then we don't really have time to really play around with it too much.
Yeah, there's an expression in the business that you're only as good as your last plate served. And we operate on that premise that, every single dish that leaves the kitchen, every single guest that walks into the restaurant, they need to have a stellar experience. The food needs to be perfect. And we don't have time, waiting for people to improve or change or, have their personality shift because, we're hopeful for human nature.
Also, let me add this too. That doesn't necessarily apply to the other side. If your attitude is great, we'll work with you for as long as it takes.
Absolutely.
I will, if you are somebody that works hard and your attitude is right and you are a nice person, that is overall the biggest thing, is being a nice person, a good person who's going to be respectful of people. We have
and guests,
all different colors and sizes and genders of people in that restaurant. And if you can be respectful of those people and have a good attitude, then we will work with you for as long as you can, and as long as it takes to get you where you need to be. And hopefully you come out on the other side better than we are.
Yeah.
Is what we're hoping.
That's the goal. I want to see my people do better than I've done. I pulled the stat the last few days too, because I kind of thought this, but I actually asked everyone. And because I operate on the premise that, and I'm currently in the situation now because I let this guy go last night. I'm really I got to change 3 menu items tonight and do all the brunch prep for this weekend myself. But, I would rather work hard, and I think my staff would rather work harder with people they like than less hard with people they don't, that are toxic. I think that, you could work an 8-hour day with someone you can't stand, or a 12-hour day with a bunch of people you like. I think every member of my staff would take the latter. I know I would. Our space is so small that one toxic person that is, running their mouth or just putting out a whole lot of negativity brings everybody down really quickly. And that just doesn't work on our end. Because it kind of goes with this one. People want to feel valued and validated. My wife is a psychiatrist at Tulane University here, so we talk a lot about human nature and what people want. And then I see it as a parent and I see it as a business owner. At their most fundamental level, people want to feel valued and validated. It's customers, it's staff, and it's everyone in between. Growing up in New York City, I would go into these restaurants and there would be these, you'd walk in and there'd be a tall, thin, model-looking hostess without an ounce of personality and no ability to make you feel welcome, and thereby no ability to make you feel validated as a customer. And, that kind of sticks out in my head as something that I just really found. I just can't stand it.
It's a real problem in our business, and I see it a lot. In fact, I saw last evening dining out. You can walk past 5 people that work in the restaurant on your way out, and no one says a word to you.
Happens all the time.
All the time. I can even know people that work in this particular restaurant. They'll know who I am, that sort of thing. Not that makes any difference. It doesn't in certain regards, in the sense that if someone knows you, then it gives you already a personal experience. But and no one even says a word to you when you walk out. It's a real big issue to us, and we make a point of it that everybody on the way out catches you before you hit the door to say thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
We don't come in. We're out of business.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. It's that important. And we genuinely value that you came in to eat here.
Yes. Every guest.
Genuinely want you to enjoy it because that's our money. It's everybody's money. It's his money. It's my money. It's everybody's money.
Yeah.
That's sort of the bottom line here. What we're doing. We're out of the way. We're in the middle of nowhere, kind of, on the dining scene. You have to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in the middle of the heart of everything. But it's a real problem.
We're in the hospitality business. Well, then why aren't people more hospitable? Why don't I feel, why is the whole staff not making me feel welcome when I walk into other restaurants? To me, it is insane.
Yeah. I see it all the time.
All the time, and I literally can't wrap my head around it. It just seems to me as a business owner to be the single most logical thing.
It starts you off on the right foot when you come in, and it ends you on the right foot when you leave.
For me, the host or the hostess is honestly just about the most important person in the restaurant, because they are your first impression and they are your last impression. And those things are really important. You need to be welcomed on your way in, and you need to be thanked on your way out.
But it doesn't end there. Everyone feels it's a culture, and if everyone's saying it, we're saying goodbye to you when you leave. Most people that come into our restaurant that are regulars, most guests, they say goodbye to everybody, including all the line cooks, when they leave.
Yeah.
It's become reciprocal.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. And it starts from the top. It's so if we are in the business of making our guests feel valued and validated and welcome, then we need to make our staff feel the same way. How can we expect the staff of a restaurant, and this applies to any business, I think, how are your employees going to make your customers feel valued and validated if your employees don't feel the same way from you?
And they're going to do a pretty bad job of faking it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think that's where the cultural thing really, it's most base level. This is, kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the top. It's like people want to feel, like they're valued. And I think customer service is something that is, not what it used to be. And I think that's what almost sets us apart. I mean, it's not really customer service, but
gives us an advantage for sure.
Absolutely.
That's what we hope. Anyway.
My final takeaway is don't be scared. I think any of y'all have probably been awake, kept awake many nights being terrified of whatever is happening with the business, whether it's, not enough revenue coming in or having to let somebody go. But the one thing that I've really seen is that as we've made these changes, that, it was scary, like this guy that I'm pointing at angrily in this photograph is the GM that moved down from Philly that I had to cut loose. He ran the day-to-day at the restaurant. I have small children and a wife. Like Matt also is married with a daughter. And if it's you're gonna have to like pick up the slack or do whatever, that can be a little bit scary. And then also, there's a whole lot of not knowing what's going to happen after you make a personnel move, or at least there used to be. Sure, I used to think, oh man, like everything's going to fall apart. It's going to come crashing down. The house of cards is so fragile. Like if I, just move anything a tiny bit, then it's going to collapse. But with each round of changes that we've made, we've continued to get better. And at the same time, with each person leaving, for whatever reason, whether on, voluntarily or not voluntarily, it gave us a chance to kind of take a look at the position and refine and whittle down exactly what we're looking for. Like we would say, okay, this person, what did they do well? What did they do poorly? And, so what can we, what kind of systems and processes can we put in place for the next person stepping into this role to make them more effective and better? So that's something that really has been kind of like a silver lining on the scary thing. And then also the fact that we do just keep getting better. We do just keep, I think.
The problem is maintaining it now. Once you get better, then maintaining it or getting even better. There's, it's work all the time. Certainly you have to, on the fear side of it, you have to be willing to trust the people that you hire. If you can't trust the people that you hire, then you hire the wrong people.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, all of it falls on you.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people. We decided that we would sort of spread things out. Once a previous GM had left, we spread things out a bit because people do have families and they do have family lives, and that's a big thing for us. We respect family life. Mm-hmm. For sure, and a lot of people that we work with do have families and other things going on. We try to spread things out a little bit because if you can do that, then you can also trust those people that you have in place, and then you don't have to worry about it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always going to be a worry that you're not maintaining, but then you don't have to worry about the day-to-day all the time. You can trust people to know what it is that you want accomplished because you hire the right people.
Yeah. Yeah, I opened Carrollton Market in 2014. My wife's the third year of her 5-year residency at Tulane, and she was 6.5 months pregnant with my second daughter. So for me, being able to delegate to people was important from day one because I wanted to be there, to see my kids grow up. So many chefs and restaurant GMs, have no family life whatsoever. So, we keep getting closer and closer to getting that. But, at the end of the day, the idea is that you just have to believe in yourself. You will persevere. Believe in your business, believe in your systems, believe in yourself. And, I think always do what you think is right, and God willing, good things will come. So that's kind of, I feel like, about all Matt and I have to say. We'd love to see some of y'all at the restaurant sometime.
Let us know too. If you make a open table booking, put a note on it. Tell us that you're from this or that you saw it or whatever.
Absolutely.
Or if you call us or whatever, let us know that you're coming in because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to
like to touch base with people, talk to them.
Absolutely. And I guess at this point, maybe
Super.
we'll open up to Myra.
Yes, actually, I do have a question for you. We did have one great question from Stephen, who says, how can I get a copy of this so that I can share it with my staff? And we are recording it, and we will be downloading it next week and sending it to those that are registered. So look for it next week, and we will also place it in our 10KSB YouTube channel at some point beyond that, as soon as we get out of campaign. But you all will receive a copy of it. We have several good questions. Sarah writes, 25 plus years, and I'm refining our mission, vision, and values culture. What is your best nugget of wisdom for me as I venture into this and may face existing staff who may not buy in to the mission, value, culture now that I am bringing more focus to it? So what happens when you have those long-time dedicated staff, but you may face a problem in trying to reacclimate them into a new culture?
I mean,
depends on the business.
I mean, I think, yeah, but I mean, from my end, if somebody's not willing to assimilate, they've just got to go. Yeah. I mean,
it depends on the business, though. I mean, a lot of businesses if someone's worked there a long time, they have a lot of background knowledge that you don't necessarily want to get rid of, or you want to cut ties with. I'm not saying that you should always do that, but it depends on.
Of course,
then you got to move on.
Yeah, it's situational, and I guess it comes down to what do you hold more dear, the new values that you're writing, or just
For us, it's new values. I mean, I think
I agree.
It's time to move on, and you can, and that's what you do. I mean, I certainly think I mean, I think that's the biggest part of it. Is that it's hard enough doing your job, and our job's a little bit different because it's the same thing every day, but it's completely different every day. And there's we call it the monkey wrench. There's a monkey wrench every day.
Every day.
You don't know what it's going to be, but it's coming.
Wow.
And
we have several more coming in, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and rapid fire a lot of these to you so we can cover some, okay? Lauren asked, how do you communicate with your staff when you're not at the restaurant? Do you use an app so everyone is in the loop about things, or just texting, or what?
Well, we've actually recently started using Slack app amongst all the managers. We have a number of Slack channels. It's free. We've been really pretty happy with it. And then, we disseminate knowledge. We do lineup every day at 4:45 where the whole staff kind of has a quick meeting. Right. So kind of anything that's been slacked about, we can disseminate that at the daily staff meeting.
We talk a lot during service.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Next question from Jean. What do you do when you see a bad review about your restaurant online?
Well, generally we try to reach, I mean, it depends.
Depends on what it is.
But it depends. We try to figure out who it was. Then we take a look at what we did wrong. Generally, this whole business is about perception. So, whether or not we think we're right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is what our customer thinks. So generally, if we see a bad review, we can figure out who it is. We're going to reach out to them and try to smooth things over and apologize and say, hey, come back in, have a drink on us, give us another shot. Because again, if we can't catch people before they hit the door, we try to catch them after the fact. So, because, word of mouth is huge. And we don't get a ton of bad reviews, fortunately.
We try and catch things before they get to that point. So we try and stay pretty forward thinking on that. But yeah, if we do, then we'll reach out for sure.
We almost always reach out. I'll write an email, Matt will call them. I mean, something just because, whether or not we think we're right or wrong, if the guest thinks we're wrong, because they're the ones that pay our bills. Right.
One really quick follow-up on that. Do you all respond to the review online?
Not generally online. We try and keep it. I mean, some places do that. We don't put it out there for everybody.
I agree. I'd rather do it personally.
Okay.
but I think it's, when something comes to you personally, it doesn't have to be out there. I think it kind of carries more weight.
There are a lot of people that also get into arguments about these things online, and I don't see the purpose in that.
Yeah, agreed.
Correct. All right, another question from Stephanie. What's your favorite interview question when you that you use in the hiring process?
What was your last great meal?
Oh, interesting. Okay, another question from Andrew. What sort of tools or strategies do you use to continue to monitor employee morale and satisfaction?
I mean, it's pretty clear. Like I said,
we work together every day. It's like we're so close. You can see it on everyone's face pretty easily. I'll ask people straight up how they're doing a lot of the time, and they know what I'm saying. Not how are you doing in like just regular, hey, how was your day? Yeah. They know when I ask them, hey, you all right?
If it seems like something is bothering somebody, I'll pull them aside and say, hey, what's going on? Anything we can do? And just try to get a feel for it. And, I don't like to see my people unhappy. Yeah. Like, it's a hard job. It ain't easy. I'm hard on people. I expect a lot out of people, but at the same time, if they're having trouble outside work, whatever, like I want to be there for them just like I expect them to be there for me as a business owner.
We expect you to be clocked in and locked in when you're there, but if you're dealing with some heavy stuff and you got to get it off your chest, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we generally care about the people that we work with because they're nice people, which also is another benefit. Mm-hmm. You don't want to work with a bunch of people that you don't like. Yeah. Nobody wants that.
And they do. I mean,
okay.
They bust their ass.
Next question. Super. Next question from Stephen. Did you enlist the current staff's help when you created the new core values mission statement?
Did I talked to you about it.
I mean, certainly management side, yes. And Justin was a part of that too.
Yeah. So Justin's my chef de cuisine. Well, no, that was Justin Remner. It was Tyler then. But I mean, I certainly did speak to him. That was at the time when the GM was kind of toxic. So he was kind of dismissive of the whole thing that I was doing, as I recall. But I think what I did was write it with the staff in mind. Was the idea. But then we had
show me it throughout.
Yeah, I showed him my growth plan as I was working on it, and then I showed it to a lot of people in the business while I was working on it. As I was doing the core values, I mean, we sat there and looked at the laptop together with I think probably whoever was around and discussed it in kind of a collaborative way.
All right, guys, and also just a quick thank you from David. Says just wanted to thank you for taking the time to do this. It was great. And on that note, since it is 11:02, I'm sure we could come up with a dozen other things to ask you. We may have to do another one at some point. This has been a pleasure to have you. And Jason, I'm just thrilled to finally have this opportunity. And Matt, thank you so much for adding all of the extra insight to this. We really appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
all right, and if anybody wants more information, you've got my email in the chat section, so feel free to email me, and we'll be sending out notice of the next 10K SB Talks, which is going to be on attracting media and market attention from one of our best PR professionals in the city. So I think maybe Jason will have to sit in on that one as a guest host.
That's all right.
All right, guys. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.
Thanks.